In The Five Heartbeats, audiences watched the rise and fall of a soulful music group. But once the cameras stopped rolling, the very actors who brought that story to life faced tragedies of their own. The brutal toll of aging, cosmetic surgeries meant to save fading fame, life-altering accidents, and sudden, haunting deaths. What really happened to them? Join us as we uncover the truth and honor the legacy they left behind Robert Townsend as Donald "Duck" Matthews. Robert Townsend was born on February 6, 1957, in Chicago, Illinois. At 34, he appeared in The Five Heartbeats, 1991, as Donald "Duck" Matthews, the group's quiet pianist and primary songwriter whose music forms the emotional backbone of the band. Duck is also the steady hand holding the group together as fame tests their loyalty. Townsend also directed and co-wrote the project, making his presence central both on-screen and behind the camera. Yet while Duck fought to keep his fictional band alive, Townsend's real life was slipping into a different kind of struggle. His marriage to actress Cherry Jones had long been weighed down by the pressures he carried from Hollywood, especially the deep bruise left by losing the Saturday Night Live audition in 1980. The rejection shaped years of insecurity, making him feel he constantly had something to prove. When he self-financed Hollywood Shuffle, 1987, with credit cards, it wasn't just a creative gamble, but a sign of how desperate and exhausted he felt fighting against typecasting and racial limitations. The emotional cost eventually reached his home. Townsend's long hours, perfectionism, and the burden of representing black creatives strained the marriage past its breaking point. By the time The Meteor Man, 1993, and The Parenthood brought him more visibility, his personal life had already fractured. He described himself as married to the work. Stress followed him for years, surfacing in pauses between projects and a quieter tone in interviews. Today, at 68 years old, Townsend continues directing, mentoring young filmmakers, and supporting his daughter, Sky Townsend, as she builds her career. His net worth of around $5 million stands as the final footnote to a life defined not by money, but by resilience, sacrifice, and an unshakable determination to carve space for voices. Hollywood once ignored Diahann Carroll as Eleanor Potter. Diahann Carroll was born on July 17, 1935, in the Bronx, New York. At 56, she joined The Five Heartbeats, 1991, as Eleanor Potter, the refined, steady wife of Jimmy Potter, whose calm presence balances the chaos of the band's rise. Her role adds dignity and emotional grounding to the film's most turbulent moments. Despite being a supporting character, Carroll's commanding presence made Eleanor one of the story's memorable pillars. But behind her flawless poise was a life scarred by heartbreak. Carroll endured 4 marriages that dissolved under pressure, from the abusive relationship with Fred Glussman to the short-lived union with Robert DeLeon, whose sudden death in a car crash left her devastated at 41. Her 9-year affair with Sidney Poitier, filled with broken promises and emotional confusion, left wounds she carried silently through her career. These painful experiences shaped her artistry, giving rare emotional depth to performances like Claudine, 1974, and her Tony-winning role in No Strings, 1962. Her career was a battlefield of its own. As the first black woman to lead a primetime sitcom in Julia, 1968-71, Carroll carried the weight of representation alone, facing public criticism from all sides. Every role she accepted, even turning down Boys in the Hood for The Five Heartbeats, was judged through the lens of race, responsibility, and expectation. When she was diagnosed with breast cancer in 1997, she confronted the disease with characteristic grace, using her platform to advocate for early detection while privately fighting fear and illness. Sadly, Carroll died on October 4, 2019, at age 84, at her home in West Hollywood from cancer-related causes. Her memorial honored a pioneer who reshaped American entertainment and opened doors for generations of black performers. At the time of her passing, her net worth, about $28 million, stood as the final testament to a lifetime of excellence, courage, and unbroken determination. Michael Wright as Eddie King, Jr. Michael Wright was born on April 30th, 1956, in New York City. At 35 years old, he joined the Five Heartbeats, 1991, as Eddie King, Jr., the fiery lead singer whose rise, collapse, and addiction-driven downfall became the heart of the film's drama. His performance demanded a shift from charm to destruction, creating some of the most unforgettable scenes in the movie. Eddie's vulnerability and volatility made him one of the film's defining characters. Like his character, Wright's real life held its own share of pressure. His marriage to Mitzi Lau, lasting from 1994 to 2000, strained under the instability of a career that fluctuated wildly after his early breakthroughs. As Hollywood repeatedly typecast him following The Wanderers, 1979, and Streamers, 1983, the long stretches without solid work created financial and emotional tension at home. The demanding nature of intense roles, such as those in V and Sugar Hill, pushed him further into work mode, but also further away from stability in his personal life. Today, Michael Wright is 69 years old. He lives a quieter life, appearing selectively in projects such as Black Lightning, 2019, while keeping his personal world private. His estimated net worth of around $2 million reflects a turbulent career marked by unforgettable performances, emotional endurance, and a quiet fight to remain true to his craft. Harold Nicholas as Sarge. Harold Nicholas was born on March 27, 1921, in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. At 70 years old, he appeared in The Five Heartbeats, 1991. As Sarge, the stern choreographer responsible for shaping the group's discipline and stage identity, his brief scenes carried the weight of a lifetime spent mastering rhythm, precision, and performance. Even in supporting moments, his presence was unmistakable. His marriages, however, were far more turbulent than his graceful performances suggested. His first marriage to actress Dorothy Dandridge collapsed under the relentless demands of show business. Constant touring, long separations, and the shared trauma of navigating a racist Hollywood that limited their opportunities. His second marriage offered more stability but still struggled under the pressures of a career that required him to be everywhere except home. The emotional residue from these experiences affected his ability to maintain a balanced personal life while fighting for recognition in an industry. The physical cost of his profession also followed him into later life. For decades, Nicholas performed shockingly demanding tap routines with his brother Fayard, mid-air splits, airborne flips, and high-impact choreography that amazed audiences but punished his body. As he aged, these years of physical strain manifested as chronic exhaustion and growing heart problems. Although he received long overdue recognition, including the Kennedy Center Honors in 1991, the applause could not reverse the damage inflicted by a lifetime of pushing his body beyond its limits. Finally, Harold Nicholas died on July 3, 2000, in New York City at the age of 79 from heart failure. At the time of his passing, his estimated net worth of about $1 million stood as a modest reflection of a legacy far larger than money, a legacy built on brilliance, sacrifice, and unmatched talent. Leon Robinson as J.T. Matthews. Leon Robinson was born on March 8, 1962, in New York City. At 29 years old, he appeared in The Five Heartbeats, 1991, as J.T. Matthews, the charming, smooth-voiced older brother whose confidence and quiet sadness shaped many of the film's most emotional moments. His role blended elegance, insecurity, and ambition, making J.T. an essential balance to Duck's intensity. But behind the smooth persona on screen, Leon's real life was a battle to balance marriage, fatherhood, and the unpredictable world of acting. His relationship with Patricia Blanchet with whom he shares a daughter, existed under constant pressure from travel, long filming schedules, and the emotional toll of chasing roles that wouldn't box him in Hollywood repeatedly tried to typecast him after All the Right Moves, 1983, forcing him to fight harder for the diverse roles he later won in The Temptations, 1998, and Cool Runnings, 1993. The strain of that battle filled his private life with distance and misunderstandings, creating a quiet, emotional weight during the peak years of his rising fame. The stress of protecting his artistic identity affected more than just his marriage. It seeped into his physical well-being. While he avoided public discussions about illness, years of maintaining parallel careers in both acting and music kept him in a constant state of fatigue. His deep commitment to portraying David Ruffin in The Temptations, 1998, a role praised for its raw accuracy, demanded emotional energy that left him drained for months. Touring with his band, Leon and the Peoples, added another layer of physical exhaustion, even as their album The Road Less Traveled charted on Billboard and proved his talent extended far beyond acting. Now, Leon Robinson is 63 years old. He continues to divide his time between acting, stage work, and music performances, choosing projects that allow him full creative control. His estimated net worth of $1.5 million reflects decades of steady dedication to his craft, built on a career where resilience mattered as much as talent. Harry J. Lennox as Terrence Dresser Williams. Harry J. Lennox was born on November 16, 1964 in Chicago, Illinois. At 27 years old, he appeared in The Five Heartbeats, 1991, as Terrence Dresser Williams, the deep-voiced member of the group whose calm presence grounded the ensemble. His role contributed steady emotional rhythm to the film, adding a layer of sincerity to the group dynamic. His personal life, however, carried its own kind of tension. During his early years, Lennox struggled to balance romantic relationships with the demanding environment of Northwestern University, where he faced both academic pressure and the challenge of discrimination within the performing arts. The emotional strain from these experiences shaped his later marriage to business executive Jana Graves. The mental and physical toll of those struggles surfaced as Lennox worked through increasingly intense roles. His transition from theater to film demanded long rehearsals, heavy dialogue, and deep emotional work, particularly in projects like The Matrix Reloaded, 2003, and The Blacklist, 2013 to 2023. The constant workload created periods of burnout. His award-winning work, including the Satellite Award for Titus, came with years of sacrifice that often left little time for rest. Now, Harry J. Lennox is 61 years old. He remains active in film, theater, and production, earning continued acclaim, including a 2025 Tony Award nomination for Purpose. His estimated net worth of around $4 million reflects a career built on discipline, endurance, and an uncompromising commitment to craft. Tiko Wells as Anthony Choirboy Stone. Tiko Wells was born in the United States on March 28, 1961, and was 30 years old when he appeared in The Five Heartbeats, 1991. He played Anthony Choirboy Stone, the soft-spoken religious heart of the group whose inner conflict added emotional depth to the film's most dramatic moments. His scenes explored the tension between faith and ambition, making Choirboy one of the most quietly haunting figures in the story. After the film, however, Wells found himself struggling to secure major roles, and the weight of that uncertainty pressed heavily on his personal life. His attempts to break away from supporting roles, such as his early appearance on The Cosby Show, often led him into the unpredictable world of independent cinema. Even with strong performances in Mississippi Masala, 1991, and Universal Soldier, 1992, each success was followed by another uphill battle to stay seen. As the years passed, the pressure of maintaining a career without steady mainstream exposure tested both his confidence and endurance. Independent films demanded long hours, tight budgets, and an intensity that left little room for rest. Wells immersed himself in those projects, but the emotional exhaustion gradually pushed him into periods of retreat from the spotlight. His role in Big Ain't Bad became one of the last performances where he fully poured his energy into the character. Now, Tiko Wells is 64 years old and continues to work selectively in television, indie films, and faith-based projects, choosing roles that allow creative freedom rather than chasing visibility. His estimated net worth of $1.5 million comes from decades of steady, if understated, work, representing a career built not on fame, but on quiet resilience and survival. Hawthorne James as Big Red Davis. Hawthorne James was born on May 1, 1949, in Chicago, Illinois. At 31 years old, he appeared in The Five Heartbeats, 1991, as Big Red Davis, the commanding, sharp-tongued music executive whose explosive presence defined some of the film's most unforgettable scenes. His chilling delivery during the office hours sequence became an instant classic, cementing Big Red as one of the most iconic antagonists in 90s black cinema. Yet behind that intensity was a life built on years of academic and artistic pressure. Moving from a master's program at the University of Michigan into Hollywood, James carried the heavy expectations of a classically trained actor who refused to compromise his craft. When big studio films like Speed, 1994, and C7N, 1995, offered him supporting roles, he embraced them, but the industry rarely gave him the depth he was capable of. The demanding rhythm of acting, teaching, and directing left little room for a personal life, and he remained unmarried for most of his career, devoting nearly all of his emotional energy to the work. The years that followed were marked by a relentless commitment to art, performing on stages across the country, accepting memorable television roles, and directing films of his own projects like The Stick-Up Kids and Remember Me, reflected how deeply he believed in storytelling. Now, Hawthorne James is 75 years old. He continues to act, speak at cultural events, support youth theater programs, and appear in selective film and television projects. His estimated net worth of $1 million reflects a lifetime spent in service of performance Troy Byer as Baby Doll. Troy Byer was born on November 7, 1964, in New York City. At 27 years old, she appeared in The Five Heartbeats, 1991, as Baby Doll, the seductive and emotionally volatile girlfriend of Eddie King Jr., adding tension to some of the film's most chaotic relationship scenes. Her character's vulnerability contrasted sharply with Eddie's spiral, making their moments together among the most memorable in the film. Behind the camera, however, her real life carried far deeper wounds than anything Baby Doll faced on screen. Byer grew up in the foster care system, surviving abandonment, instability, and the painful emotional ruptures that follow a child into adulthood. These unresolved scars followed her into marriage with producer Mark Berg. Despite their attempts to build a stable family life, the emotional baggage she carried from childhood created conflicts that neither partner could fully escape. The marriage eventually broke under stress, leaving her to raise her son Jordan while juggling the relentless challenges of Hollywood. The pressure of rebuilding herself professionally became both a lifeline and a burden. She fought to transition from child actor on Sesame Street to respected filmmaker, navigating the industry's dismissiveness toward women of color. Writing BAPS, 1997, gave her a breakthrough. But directing Love Don't Cost a Thing, 2003, demanded more emotional resilience than she expected, reviving old trauma and leaving her mentally drained. These battles pushed Byer to confront her pain head-on, ultimately guiding her into psychology and self-help writing. Now, Troy Byer is 61 years old and works as a psychologist, author, and mental wellness educator, known for helping others process the very kind of trauma she survived. Her estimated net worth of $4 million reflects a life rebuilt through creativity, self-reflection, and the difficult decision to turn her suffering into a source of strength for others. Deborah Lacy as Rose. Deborah Lacy was born on September 12, 1956, in South Pasadena, California. At 35 years old, she appeared in The Five Heartbeats, 1991, as Rose, a quiet but grounding presence in the film's family-centered scenes. Though not a large role, Rose served as a stabilizing emotional thread during several key moments. Her life behind the camera, however, was often more complicated than the calm characters she portrayed. Maintaining a marriage while working in an industry built on uncertainty created years of strain. These pressures eroded the stability she tried to hold on to at home, making her relationships fragile just as her career demanded the most from her. Work on early major projects like Star Trek Deep Space Nine placed her under even more stress, forcing her to constantly prove she belonged in rooms where roles for black actresses were still limited. Those pressures grew sharper as she transitioned into the 2000s. Recurring work on Mad Men brought visibility, but it came with a demanding shooting schedule that left little emotional space for recovery. The strain affected her health at times, leaving her battling fatigue while navigating an industry that offered few second chances, especially to women her age. Now, Deborah Lacy is 69 years old and continues to work selectively in television while spending more time mentoring younger actors who face the same barriers she once did. Her estimated net worth in 2025 is $2 million. Teresa Randall as Brenda Williams. Teresa Randall was born on December 27, 1964, in Gary, Indiana. At 27 years old, she appeared in The Five Heartbeats, 1991, as Brenda Williams, the supportive and steady partner of Dresser, bringing warmth to the film's most intimate emotional beats. Her role added grounding and sincerity to a story dominated by chaos and ambition. But behind that calm presence on screen, her real life was far more turbulent. The mid-90s placed Randall in a whirlwind of opportunity that quickly turned into pressure, especially after her high-profile work in Bad Boys, 1995. The sudden surge of visibility attracted intense industry expectations, and the strain of managing fame without a stable personal anchor quietly weighed on her. Her career soon became a battle between promise and disappointment. After starring in Spike Lee's controversial Girl 6, 1996, she hoped for a breakthrough that never fully arrived. The poor box office reception of the film pushed her into a harsh cycle of sporadic roles and long gaps between projects. Films like Spawn, 1997, and Space Jam, 1996, kept her name alive, but the pressure to survive in an industry that had already moved on was physically and emotionally exhausting. Her eventual retreat from Hollywood reflected years of burnout, not lack of talent. By 2025, Teresa Randall is 61 years old and living a quiet, largely private life away from the industry, following her retirement from acting. Her estimated net worth of $7 million comes from decades of film work, including the enduring success of the Bad Boys franchise. Chuck Patterson as Jimmy Potter. Chuck Patterson was born on February 11, 1945, in Memphis, Tennessee. At 45 years old, he appeared in The Five Heartbeats, 1991, as Jimmy Potter, the group's loyal manager who anchored the band through crises and quiet backstage conflicts. His presence shaped the film's emotional backbone, especially in scenes where stability was scarce. Behind the character's calm exterior, Patterson's own life carried heavy personal strain. His marriages, particularly his second one to playwright Corey Thomas, faced long stretches of separation caused by his constant movement between Broadway stages and film sets. That distance created emotional fractures that never fully healed. His Broadway commitments, intense rehearsal schedules, relentless performance pressure, only deepened that divide. As the years passed, the stress of maintaining long-term work in theater and film wore down his health. He fought growing fatigue while still giving everything to productions like Hair, 1979, and Imaginary Heroes, 2004, roles that pushed him physically and emotionally even in his later years. The pressure of sustaining a multi-decade career took its toll, and near the end of his life, he faced severe medical complications that slowly weakened him before the final event struck. Without warning, Chuck Patterson died on December 23, 2013, at the age of 68 in Harlem, New York, following a sudden heart failure that arrived before doctors could intervene. At the time of his passing, his estimated net worth was $500,000. Casey Lemmons as Cookie. Casey Lemmons was born on February 24, 1959, in St. Louis, Missouri. At 30 years old, she appeared in The Five Heartbeats, 1991, as Cookie, the steady, grounding wife of Eddie, whose presence softened the film's most turbulent moments. Her scenes carried warmth and quiet resilience, and the role became an early landmark in her transition from actress to creator. Yet behind the poise she brought to the screen, Lemmons' personal life was often strained by the immense weight of carving out a future beyond acting. Her marriage to actor-director Vondie Curtis Hall endured its own battles, long shoots, opposite schedules, and the dual pressure of raising 4 children while both parents worked in demanding creative fields. The emotional toll was sharpest during the years she attempted to step away from acting to build a directing career. The transition from performer to filmmaker intensified the pressure. Directing Eve's Bayou, 1997, placed her under enormous stress, juggling rewrites, studio negotiations, and the fear that one misstep could end the opportunity entirely. Later works such as Harriet, 2019, pushed her through grueling research, tight deadlines, and the burdens of telling culturally monumental stories. Now, Casey Lemmons is 64 years old and continues to work actively as a director, educator, and mentor within major film institutions. She remains a respected voice in both independent and studio filmmaking, guiding new artists while preparing future projects of her own. Her estimated net worth in 2025 is $2 million. Time has changed them in ways no one could have predicted, but their impact on The Five Heartbeats will never fade. So now the question is, which story shocked you the most? Tell us in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more untold Hollywood journeys.